Welcome to another unit in this Excel course. This unit I'm going to talk about how I can use either a total or a subtotal in this table. Well, there's also an added bonus to using subtotals, which we can see here. In the previous unit I talked about grouping parts of this table. Well, the problem was those groupings, they always have to leave one row unused between any two groups, and this problem we can get around with when we use the subtotals. However, before I start with this, I have to do two things. First off, I have to ungroup all of this. This was just to show you something. And then, well, you can do two things here. First off, well, subtotals at this point are not possible. So you see here, it's grayed out. So if we still have the table as a table, we only have one possibility. And that's if we go to Table Tools, we can check a total row, which here more or less describes different things like the average. So here, like the average mark in this, the average mark in this. Or I have different other possibilities like count, so how many entries do I have, what's the maximum, what's the sum, and stuff like this. So I can evaluate, but only the whole table at once. So this is nice and all, but what if I want to evaluate this per grouping? So per every of these groups. Well, that's actually what the aforementioned subtotals here in the menu data are for. However, as you can see, I cannot use them as long as this is actually formatted as a table. So what I'm going to do is actually abolish the table. So I go to right click, table, and then go here to convert to range. So you ask me, do I want to actually abolish the properties of this being a table? When I have this, you see now I could use subtotal. In this context, clicking here on grouping and then click on subtotal, and then he already asked me here at each change in, so what should be the basis for the grouping? And well, obviously here the grouping variable should be the base where it changes. So I have all from group 1, then all from group 2, all from 3, all from 4. So here I could, if I wanted to, select also the other columns. However, grouping makes more sense. Then, what should the subtotal be about? Well, best it should be about averages, because like the sum of marks doesn't really make sense. Could also use best and worst mark like max and min. Here we go with average mark. Then, if I click OK, and see I get for each of the groups an average. Or at least this looks like it. Here I get the total average. But, well, how can I actually see those averages? Well, on the left side, what you see, he automatically grouped this for each of the different groupings. So I can go here, those ones, close them part by part or with all of them. Okay, but I still do not see the averages. Well, that's actually the problem, because he calculates the averages for this grouping variable at the point. So if I want to have them for something else, I need to change this. So I can go back to subtotal. Then I can select down here, add subtotal to, and can do this for exam 1 and 2 and not for grouping. If I do this, then I actually get what I wanted. I get the same thing for exam 1, exam 2, for each of the different groups. So in the subtotal, I actually have two parts where I select something. At each change in, that's with what I describe my different groups. And add subtotal to, from what he actually calculates the subtotal. The interesting thing, as I mentioned, here I have this artificial row which is inserted, the subtotal row. So this allows me to actually close them down part by part. So to get an overview about the 4 different groups, and for each of the group in addition the average. Then finally the grand average in reference to the whole data set. Well, this for example allows me to check how do the different groups of students perform as compared to the class average. And well, that was all I wanted to mention with regard to the overall total, which I can use in tables, or here if I just transform this back to ranges, and how I can use subtotals, first off to get subtotals, and secondly to perform a decent enough grouping per each real group by inserting this additional artificial subtotal row. And well, that's then all there is on the evaluation of a table, or more or less something table-like. So this concludes this session, and if you want to see more on Excel, feel free to visit the rest of this course or have a look at the corresponding playlist. I say goodbye and see you next time.